part of the Mandalorian suit as well. So that's because it's easier to go to the toilet in a Mandalorian suit than it is Batman.
So anybody tuning in right now has tuned into the bit about it's easier to go to the toilet in a Mandalorian
It's
suit.
true. Mandalorian comes in 2 or 3 pieces. It's got a zipper. Batman suits don't have zippers, so you really can't go to the toilet. So you have to take off the entire top bit, stand at your urinals, with the others, and just hold the suit like that while you do it. And it's hope.
I'm so glad it was a formal dinner that I met you outside, because if you'd have come up to me at the urinals dressed like that.
Yeah, we met. Yeah, that's right. We met. We met years ago, but pre-COVID.
Ferrari Owners Club dinner in the Globe, and you just approached me at the urinals. If you'd have been dressed as Batman, mate, I would have just thought, what the hell's going on?
I met some of my best mates in the toilets.
Okay, right. I know I said therapy session. We're going to need some serious therapy after this, I'll tell you that much.
How about famous people that you walked past in the toilets?
Famous people you met in the toilets. Don't you know the golden rule of toilets? You don't talk to people in the urinal. You never talk to the other person.
No, you don't talk to them while you're standing next to them. But when you go
at all.
I had a friend of mine who was standing at the urinals at Brooklands, and as men, they're standing up, blah blah blah. And I said, "Oh, how you doing?" I won't mention his name. And he turns around and he pats me on the back with his dirty hand.
Oh, dude! Come on, that is not
a reason not to talk to people in men's toilets.
And yet you do.
And the other thing about urinal rules is that when you go into your urinal, if there's only one person there, you're supposed to go to the urinal at the extreme other corner. I don't understand the people that come and stand right next to you.
No,
go over there.
No, that's good. It scares them. I like to do that. Stand right next to them. Right?
The fact you knew my name. He knew my name, and he just sidled up beside me and went, "Hello, Alan," and I'm like, "What?"
Do you know? There's a saying. There's a famous film. Somebody famous. I remember reading about it, and he goes, "I was given one bit of advice by this really big celebrity, a very famous guy. He gave me one bit of advice." And the interviewer goes, "What was that?" He goes, "Well, the guy said to me, the actor, very famous actor, said to me, make sure you never wear suede shoes. Always wear leather shoes." And he's like, "Why?" He goes, "When you're in a toilet at the urinals, if you're famous, well known, the person next to you will suddenly look at you and turn around and look at you."
I saw that coming.
But that's actually it hasn't happened to me, because obviously I'm not gonna, in the back still I have to, because you can't move your neck. But I can spend all day talking about that.
Okay, I think we are actually live. I don't know if either of you can see. I've just sent you a link, so I think that we are actually live on YouTube as well.
Alan, believe me, it gets a little bit more serious.
No,
this is
not really.
fine.
Not much.
Well,
apparently we're live. Okay, that's good enough for me.
Brooklyn's urinals are like 18th century still. I don't know why they don't spend a bit of money to do it up a little bit.
They're cold. They're
Yeah.
cold, so you never put on the best of shows.
Is there like a Michelin star guide
To
for
toilets?
urinals? Yeah, I mean there should be really. Well, shouldn't there? Don't you think so?
There is one. It's called the Michelin.
Because if there isn't, then I think that's another project for the drivers' union. Don't you think so?
Do you know, me and Alan actually go way back, because we're both members of the FN.
Of the urinal club, is it?
No. Well, that as well. But we're both members of the FNLN club.
Okay. You'll have to tell us what that is now.
First name as the last name.
Okay.
Oh,
Alan Robb.
okay.
See, so a few times I've actually called him Rob, and my last name is my first name, Ali.
Yeah.
So we're an
but nobody knows that.
Well, what people do, people still call me Ali. They think it's Ali.
Who calls you Ali?
Other members are George Michael, Elton John, Katy Perry, Chris Martin, Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
We're an esteemed company. Sheikh.
We are.
Shazad Sheikh.
No, but the other day, I go to events and nobody can spell my name right. And literally, I went to an event yesterday. I went to an MG event yesterday, and they gave me a lanyard and they'd spelt my name. Both of my names, they'd spelt them wrong. Both of them, not just one, but both of them, they'd spelt wrong. But the funniest one, I went to an event. This is years ago, and you go there and you pick up your lanyard. And I picked up my lanyard. They gave me my lanyard, and it said Shazam. And I was like,
and you
that's
disappeared.
no, seriously. And I looked at it. I said, that's not correct. That's not my. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. Should we change it? And I'm like, no, actually, I think I'll be Shazam today. I still have that somewhere.
Well, when we were at the NEC, where we all three of us last saw each other, I was walking around with Shazad, and people just like tugging him on his arm. Can I have a selfie with you? And it's really it's like being with a celebrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about that. We've got Reza. Reza is joining us. So I don't know who he's referring to, Michael Caine and John Wayne. And then we've got Ibrahim.
Not Michael Caine. Sorry, no, Caine. How did you
Michael
Caine?
Michael
Yeah, I know
Caine.
people called
Michael
Caine.
Caine.
Caine?
Don't you know
I know
Michael
people called
Caine?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear that. I can see that.
He says, Ibrahim says, don't talk to an important person in the toilets. In other words, one of the big knobs.
That's very good.
They may have something very big to have to handle.
Well, I once walked past Ian Callum in the toilet. I was going to say hello, but
Really?
I was walking in, so.
Was he redesigning the urinals at the time?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Hooked on Classics. Hello, how you doing? They're just saying hello to each other. So here we go. We are definitely live. We're definitely on. We are in the latest episode of the BrownCarGuy Therapy Podcast. We've already had some therapy here because we're talking about urinals and Mandalorian suits. And there you go. We got a lightsaber. So if there is any dark forces out there that.
I don't know what I've let myself in for today. I really don't.
You will enjoy this podcast. You will always subscribe to the BrownCarGuy podcast. You must subscribe. Oh my gosh, it's not working, is it? Anyway, so we have, apart from the Dark Lord, we also have Alan, who's joined us kindly today, who's wondering what the hell he's let himself in for.
The Dark Lord himself, yeah.
So Alan,
and thank you for having me. Thanks very much.
So tell us who you are a little bit. Tell us about your journey from being a paramedic to the chairman of the Lamborghini Club UK.
Okay, so I wasn't very good at school, so I left school and became a paramedic with Surrey Ambulance Service because at 19.
I find that a little bit alarming right there, that you left school and you weren't very good and you decided to become a paramedic.
Yeah, well, I like a challenge. I'm not academically great, so I like working with my hands.
Because I always assume paramedics are really smart people.
We are.
Okay.
It's just when it's something you want to learn about, then it makes it easy. And at 19, there's not an awful lot of things that allow you to drive really fast and meet nurses. And I'll use the polite way of saying
you drove the ambulance.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the reason.
Yeah.
Now it's all clicking. Now it's making sense.
Yes. So because you do 12-hour shifts, you do 6 hours of each. So in the morning or in the afternoon, you either drive or look after the patient. So if you're the driver, you look after the vehicle, you look after all the equipment, and if you're the attendant, then you look after the patient, and that's it. And you swap halfway through. But I started when I was doing my driver training. Back then, they did a lot of driver training. Even when I was doing my driver training, my instructors would not limit me to do stuff. I'm a natural driver. So, for example, when they were limiting other people in, because we had unmarked police cars to hoon around the countryside on pre-planned routes, and everyone would be limited to like 90 miles an hour, and I'd be doing overtakes at 120, 130, pushing the limits of the cars and actually showing people what they could do.
So hang on a minute. So the driver training you did, that was with the police you have to do it, is it?
No, they're police, undercover police cars, so they got blue lights fitted.
Oh.
And they're higher spec cars. So we were using things like at the time it was the 850 T5R, and we were using Vectra GSIs as training vehicles, full police spec, because you're training to push these cars as hard as you can before you transfer to the sort of the 3.5 ton ambulances and trying to apply that training. And your qualification round to be let loose on the road is actually a videoed drive on blue lights through a nominated town, and you've got to do a commentary to camera of what you're doing. And if you don't do it, if you don't pull it off,
that sounds like fun.
It is. It's great fun.
And there was no GoPro, so it would be like a big video. Can someone stand?
Oh yeah,
thing there?
Yeah. It was on a tripod, stuck with sort of medical grade sticky tape to the back of the ambulance cab. I mean, we're talking nearly 30 years ago, but the ambulances we had, they were Cosworth 3-litre V6s.
And the ambulances?
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were proper. They were fiberglass.
Hang on, so what make were these ambulances then?
Ford, they were transits.
They were
But they had 3-litre V6.
V6. Oh, wow.
Yep. Manual gearbox, twin rear axle. Used to drift them for days.
And you had
go sideways. It was phenomenal. There was nothing you couldn't do with these ambulances.
Images of Carry On movies are coming to my head where the patient's strapped to the trolley at the back and you're just drifting around the corner.
Absolutely.
Poor Kenneth Williams is just rolling down the thing.
On a serious note, did you ever get people blocking you when you're on your lights in your ambulance? People not letting you go past.
The thing is, and the way I got a reputation for driving is because, and this is one of the reasons why you drive on blue lights, you're allowed to claim an exemption from the Road Traffic Act. If you get it wrong, if you had an accident, you're guilty until proven innocent. So the risk lies with you. But a lot of our
even
people
under the lights, you're still culpable.
Under the lights, you're still culpable. The limits of the law still apply, but you're allowed to be exempt if you can get away with it and if you can justify it. And a lot of my colleagues used to push through the traffic, whereas I would say, well, I've got an exemption. I can literally go the wrong way down a one-way street. I can go on the wrong side of the road. So in answer to your question, Si, no, people didn't used to block me because I used to be on the wrong side of the road most of the time, allowing people to actually see where the emergency vehicle was coming from rather than checking their mirrors and panicking, thinking, where is it, I can't see it. Because it's a lot easier to make progress. And this is one of the... It is, but then the system of car control you're taught. So you're taught mirror signal maneuver when you pass your test. Roadcraft teaches you 14 separate additional items on that, which deals with every single hazard, and it's drummed into you in such a state that in the last 35 years of my professional driving career, I still apply it. And once it's done and you're qualified, the statistics, you're 95% less likely to have an accident than if you haven't gone through that training.
And have there been situations where you were like literally 30 seconds too late or 30 seconds in time? Just because that's
well the story of how I met my wife Sarah is in answer to that question. I did a really nasty incident. I won't go into the details, but it was a child ejected from a car who was suffering from some very, very critical injuries. And we decided, we were in Farnham at the time, and the hospital St Mary's in Paddington had a specialist neurosurgical department for children waiting. So what we did was we called the hospital, because you've got two-way communication, and what we did was called a hot load. So I said I was going to drive into Royal Surrey County, which Sarah, my wife, was the senior nurse in, and I was going to pick up a crash team, a resus team, effectively, an anaesthetist and a nurse. And then we were going to take them up to St Mary's. And St Mary's told us that if from when we loaded up and anaesthetised the patient, I had half an hour to get from Guildford to St Mary's in Paddington.
Wow.
And if it was any less, or any more rather, the damage would be too great. They wouldn't be able to rectify anything done. Now, to quantify the speed we did it at, when you turn on the blue lights on any ambulance, there's no fallacy that you're just going back to the station. In the control room, you have a massive map with every ambulance available, and they're either green, blue, they're different colors, purple. But when you turn your blue lights on, your icon turns red, because you then are taking every legal step to cross the line of what you can and can't do. So it's got to be recorded your route for legal purposes. But then there's also the element of fun in that, because then they can time you. So the night I met Sarah, the record from Royal Surrey to St Mary's in Paddington was 25 minutes. But on Friday evening at 9 o'clock, I did it in 19.
Wow. 6 minutes.
So 6 minutes under the record, and obviously 11 minutes under what the hospital told us to do. And that was with 5 people working on the patient in the back, standing up, and the patient's father sat next to me in the cab, because he's a child, 8-year-old. I wasn't going to leave him behind.
Yeah.
So at that point, first of all, yes, there are times when you turn around and go, I've done a great job because I've delivered and done everything I needed to do to save that, give that child the best possible thing. But also in events like that, you then realize that your driving is different to what everybody else expects you to be able to drive like. Because you know, there's a lot of work going on. And even when my wife came, when we stopped at the hospital, Sarah, that's the first thing she said to me. She was like, "How the hell did you do that?"
Yeah.
We were working, and I was doing up to 120, 130 miles an hour up the A3,
And
and
there's Ford Transit ambulance with the Cosmos
yep,
V6 in it. Wow.
exactly. And in answer to your question, what the say about people holding you up, my view is you go through, you know, you're going through Knightsbridge to get to St Mary's Paddington up the Edgware Road. So I used to go the entire length of Knightsbridge past Harrods on the wrong side of the road because it was a lot easier to
People still
push.
do that as well.
Yeah, a lot
That was last
easier.
weekend. That was sad. No,
So-
I'm just picturing that road now. That is spectacular. Wow.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to avoid an ambulance when you can see it coming towards you than trying to push through that constant flow of traffic in front of you because it's got nowhere to go. It's not the public's fault that they panic. They hear an ambulance, hear a siren, they're going to panic. So you got to calm the whole situation down. Apply your 14 points of hazard control to every single hazard you're going to come to. So every traffic light you're going to approach the wrong way. Every pedestrian, have they seen you? Have you got the right siren on? Are you indicating correctly? Have you got your main beam on? Are you making that ambulance as physically visible as possible?
So
They
are
don't
all
focus
ambulance
so much.
drivers as good as you then, or is there a varying rate?
There's varying rates. A lot of people join because they're medical. They're not the drivers. And I was lucky. I was relatively good at the medical side of it,
Yeah.
but I was excellent at the driving side of it. So a lot of times just to get called to go to incidents, not for helping the patient, but for actually driving the ambulance that was going to be carrying that patient in. So take over from the crew. And I mean, on numerous occasions, I was offered police escorts and I used to refuse them. And the police would be like, "Well, why?" And I said, "Because you'll hold me up."
There was that.
You'll
Wasn't
get
there
in my
that
way.
famous record that the police did one time? Was it in Rover 3500s when they had
The
deliver-
liver run.
The liver run. Yes, yes. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? What was that
Yeah,
about? That was, what record did they achieve when they did that?
They went from the top of the they went from just where the M25 meet the M1 to, I think it was the Cromwell Hospital, in something like 17 minutes.
Wow.
And it was a superb, that is a superb demonstration of the driver training that emergency services people go through. You know, they don't have the time or the money to do it as strictly as we did it. I mean, it was 3 weeks intensive course, 12-hour days, including an overnight course. So you'd even do a one day where you went out overnight and did 12 hours of driving to make sure you weren't night blind and you could focus and do. They don't do it as much now because it's more staggered throughout your career. But I was always of the opinion that it was better to what we called swoop and scoop. So there's only 2 people. This is in the days before you had ambulance officers on the road, you had hazard areas response teams. I was always in the opinion that it's better to get the patient to hospital quickly where there's could be 10, 15 people than waste time at the scene with just 2 of you disappearing up your own proverbial backside to try and save someone. Get him in the ambulance, get him in there, tell the hospital you're coming, and that can make the difference. It's that golden hour you want to make sure you get.
The record that you did, when was that? What year was that?
Oh gosh, that would have been 1995, I think.
1995, perfect. That makes sense to me. Okay. Do you think you could have done that today, considering the road traffic situation and also all the cameras, the speed calming, and all the rest of it?
No, and the ambulances now, they're not 3 tons fiberglass, they're 5-ton air suspension, 1.9 litre turbo diesels from Mercedes. There's no longer the V8s, there's no longer the V6s. They're all designed. I mean, the EU regulations came in to state that an ambulance had to withstand an impact for a patient properly strapped in of plus 45 G.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a case of now there's so much weight involved in it that you wouldn't be able to do that these days. You just wouldn't. Which is why you have helicopters, why you have motorbikes, why you have response cars, because the targets haven't changed, but the ambulances have.
Let me ask you, as a driver, as an ambulance driver, what do you think of those people that will move aside for emergency services to pass and then immediately tuck in behind them?
Good luck trying to keep up.
There's a special place in hell for them.
Right?
There is. And you know, several occasions I used to just slow right down to a crawl with blue lights on and embarrass them, you know, and make them be in the middle of the road doing 3-4 miles an hour when we knew it wasn't something that was life threatening we were going to, but it was serious, just so I was making an idiot of them. But again, you know, I defied anybody to keep up with me. And I used to take new recruits out who'd passed the course and was still driving like they were driving to pass the course, and say, well, actually, in the real world, this is what you have to apply to it.
So I'll tell you what, you are like the real life Cannonball Run, aren't you?
Burt Reynolds,
what's his, no, well, not even Burt Reynolds, but what was the name of the founder of the Cannonball Run?
Hal Needham.
No, not Hal Needham, the other guy. Hal Needham was the guy that filmed he directed the movie. He was the stunt driver. But there was a famous motoring journalist whose name will probably come to me in a minute.
Brock Yates.
Brock Yates, that's it, Brock Yates. So he actually, so the ambulance that was used in the movie is actually the ambulance that he used to set the record. It's the same, the same vehicle. So he did actually do that. That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy an ambulance. I want to have a look at the V6 ambulances.
Or V8 even.
Have
either of you done the IAM? Well, I mean, obviously, Alan, you're well qualified, but somebody's asking. Ibrahim is asking. He wants to do the IAM Road Smart. Is it worth him doing it?
Yes, very much so. It's teaching you the IAM Road Smart's more defensive driving, whereas the ambulance is defensive and progressive driving. But any driver training you can do only will add to your future understanding of what you need to be able to do to drive professionally and properly, and you'll benefit from it. Practice makes perfect. I'm not a perfect driver by any stretch, but any driver training will only add benefit to you.
I think as we get older, you know, we just get bad habits. So sometimes it's good to go back.
I have to confess, I've got slower. Despite being a motoring journalist, you know. I mean, people like think you're a motoring journalist, and they go, oh, "Can we go out with you? Can we go out with you?" I'm like, you're going to be bitterly disappointed, you know, because you know.
Can you see that?
That's
there you go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's a V8 ambulance. That's one of our LDV ambulances.
I was going to say that's not a transit. So that had a V8. No. So which V8 did that have in it? Is that the Buick V8? Rover V8?
Rover V8.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And it never broke down?
Oh, that one broke down a lot.
Rover, there you go, see?
Oh, it's a good, I mean, it was a good engine. It was a pretty solid engine, but yeah.
Brilliant engine.
Were you into cars when you were a kid, when you were young?
Yeah, well, Shazid said that, you know, the Cannonball Run, my uncle was one of the chief mechanics for Newman Haas IndyCar.
Oh, wow.
I just remember going to visit them in Chicago because the family was going to go and meet Paul Newman and Carl Haas for the day. And when we walked into the garage, Hawaiian Tropic were the principal sponsors for Newman Haas. And at the time, the Cannonball Countach was owned by the owner of Hawaiian Tropic. And we walked in and the Cannonball Run Countach was there.
Wow.
And I saw that car and had no idea what it was. Never seen a Lamborghini, but saw the car, couldn't figure out. It was in amongst all the Indy cars, but there was the car in front of me, and I was just shocked. And then, of course, I watched the film, and that started.
And it's recently re-emerged, that Lamborghini, hasn't it? It's come back into the spotlight. But I maintain that the opening sequence of that first Cannonball Run movie remains the best opening sequence of any movie ever. Maybe the Italian Job opening sequence runs it a close second.
Yeah.
But to be honest, for me, that's 1 and 2.
Did you meet Paul Newman?
No, I didn't. I was looking at the cars. I was too interested in looking at the cars.
Well, I mean, how old were you at the time?
I was 6.
Yeah, exactly. So who the hell is Paul
Newman?
Yeah, exactly.
He's just some old dude.
Who cares? I don't want to see that. I want to see this black car. But funnily, you talk about, you know, the fact of that car is iconic. Through associations with the Lamborghini Club, I now know the owner. I'm involved with Haggerty on their 10 out of 10 bull run, their monthly reports. I supply them cars, and I now have access to their studio shoots and films of that car that I only ever dreamed I could ever get to. And they said, you know, when you go to the States anytime, let us know and we'll put you together with the owner. I've messaged him, and through We Are Curated as well. It's just a very, very strange, you know, journey from being 6 years old to having the guy's mobile number on my phone now going, that's just weird.
We've got a comment from Hooked on Classics. Before I get to the comment, I'm just going to plug my book here, which is this one, Quantum Races, because in the book we're talking about Cannonball Run, and I've written a short story in this book which is called Camel Bull Run, and it's a reimagining of that famous story. Anyway, Hooked on Classics is saying, I love the Countach. I've heard it's terrible to drive.
Absolutely not.
It's
Absolutely
horrible. I
not.
drove one. It was horrible to drive.
Yeah, but how long did you drive it for?
I drove it for about 45 minutes. It was horrible.
Okay,
I would buy one. I would buy one like a shot.
Okay, so all of these motoring journalists, if you and you'll know this, Shazad, you'll know this. So you get a car of that value for what, maybe 3-4 hours, and you've got to do photos, you've got to do driving impressions, you've got a set route. You can't learn a Countach in 3 to 4 hours. You just can't. You need months to learn it. Once you get over that intimidation factor, once you get over the pedals, the setup, learn how to heel and toe on it, that car is wicked. That is an amazing, stunning car to drive. You can't learn it in 3 to 4 hours or 45 minutes, Si. You just can't.
It was. I couldn't. I stalled it. So
Yeah.
I did an article about it
I know.
in the book, and it was. And I just said it was uncomfortable. The brakes didn't work, but yeah, I would buy one like a shot. Anytime, because it's just iconic. That and the Esprit, the two iconic to me.
But you can't judge a Countach on 45 minutes. You just can't. You have to do some miles on it. First time I drove a Countach was post-accident repair on a 1988 car, and it intimidated me so much that I managed to do from Bicester right the way back to High Wycombe, where our workshops were for the main workshop for Lamborghini. No, I drove it, and I picked up a DB9 from Gaydon that was being tested at the time as a development car. And as I pulled off at High Wycombe, the development driver pulled beside me, wound down the window, and I popped open the door, and he went, "Man, that was a great burn. I had great fun following it." And I went, "I had no idea you were there. I was just hanging on."
No, it is an extraordinary thing. I mean, I'm just trying to find a picture of. So my first supercar that I ever reviewed was the Countach.
Oh, look at that. Is that QV?
Yeah, no.
Yes, it's a QV.
It would have been, could have been, yeah, because that would have been in I drove that in 1990, I think. Yeah. And it had been restored by the owner because it belonged to some Saudis who had basically, thrashed the car. So he had lovingly restored it. And I literally was just starting out. I was literally just starting out writing for a newspaper and stuff like that. A friend of mine lived in a place called Saudia City in Jeddah, and he told me, "Oh, there's a Countach around here." So we sort of basically stalked this guy until we found him. And I said, "Oh, I write for a newspaper and this and that. Could I do a feature on it?" He said, "Yeah, sure. Come over X day and I'll take you out for a ride." We're like, "Okay." So we got in the car. We went out to the Corniche area. And my friend jumped into my car, and we pulled over into a lay-by, and I had an old Handycam Sony video camera, and I gave him the camera, and I said, film us driving off and film us driving back. As we drove off, he filmed us, and we went down the road, went up the Corniche, and the guy then turned to me, and I don't know what possessed him. He turned to me, he said, "Shazad, would you like to have a go?" I'm like,
yeah.
I'm 20. I think I'm 20 or 21 years old. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. So I get in this car, and I am scared shitless. I'll be absolutely honest with you. This is like the most intimidating thing I've ever driven in my life. And I got in this car and I drove it, and I could only see out of it straight. I couldn't see. I was like, "Is there anything on that side?" And this is a wide open roads in Saudi, so there was no issue. But at one of the traffic lights, literally, I think it was a Supra that came up alongside of us, Supra from that era. And he was revving the engine, and we were literally in second gear, because we weren't even using first. We were in second gear, and it just floored it, and he just became a dot in the mirror, disappeared. And then when we came back to the lay-by, I pulled into the lay-by, and you can see, I've got to find the footage somewhere, because it's somewhere. And you can see my friend, he's videoing the car coming in, and then he realizes it's me driving, and he goes, "Shazad!" And he puts the camera down so you don't actually see me, but it's such a tragedy that happened. Well, but that car it left such an impression on me. I mean, at the time, it was the wildest, craziest, most powerful, most aggressive, most intimidating, and most spectacular thing that I've ever driven.
It still is.
And it is, but of course, don't forget that at that time, that was the supercar. I mean, there was nothing else. That was it. No. But then I have to say that it would have been 15 years, 20 years later when I drove another one, friend of mine, John Herman in the UAE. He's got a couple of them and a Testarossa, and then we did a feature on his car. He was a black one, and I took that out and I went to meet him at a location, at the photography location in the desert where we decided to do it. And I went there in a Golf GTI. And one of the things I realized when I drove his car, and again, after all that experience, I was like, yeah, this is actually not that quick. I could run rings around this in the GTI. But the thing is, in terms of the drama, the theater, the awesomeness,
the noise,
the noise, the fact that engine, it's literally like that engine is behind you, shoving you in the back. And there is just nothing to touch it. Nothing.
Well,
today.
the first supercar I ever saw was a Countach. It was in the 70s. And I was on my way I was on my way to school. I think it must have been in the morning. And I stopped and I was walking, and then it was outside the cinema, across the news agent. A red Countach pulled up. Guy got out, walked into, I remember, went into the news agent, come back out, and I'm like, as a kid, 11-year-old or 10-year-old, looking at it, I just couldn't get my eyes off it. And he drove off, and I thought, it's been with me ever since, the first supercar. Special. And I'm wondering about kids. And kids these days, what do they see? They see the latest Tesla. They don't see that kind of stuff, or they see everything on Instagram. Or there's nothing. They
don't see it and they don't hear it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to come back to your journey to the becoming the chairman of the Lamborghini Club. But before we do that, I mean, that whole idea that Sai just touched upon, that transition from where, I'm playing with this at the moment. That's got in my hand. I'm just fidgeting with that. But imagine like when you were a kid and you saw one of these on the road, you'd just absolutely lose it. But actually today, if you saw one, I'd still lose it. But what I mean to say is, like, today, if you walk around London and you see a supercar, latest Ferrari, latest Lamborghini, whatever, it's like, blah, whatever, And I don't know if it have the same kind of impact and the same kind of, awesomeness that it had back. I remember, like, we were at the NEC show and I was telling Sai, we were on the Di Tommaso stand. And I said the first time I saw one of these cars was in Jeddah. And my dad was driving in our old Honda Accord. And my dad was not a car guy. He wasn't even a keen driver. He hated driving. He hated cars. And I'm sitting there, and I was a kid, and I'm like, go quicker. I want to see the car. And he's like, I'm not driving quicker. But it was such an incredible thing to see
one of
something
those
like
in
that.
Amongst, 100%. And you don't get the same. You just don't get it because the exposure to them is so much more now. And that's the thing.
And at the NEC last week, wasn't it? Was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. You had the Lamborghini stand had 5 Countachs.
4 Countachs.
4 different.
Including
one of each.
Periscope as well.
How did that go down with the public?
We've been inundated. We've been absolutely inundated with messages, with photographs, with stuff being sent to us, with new members. It was brilliant. I think we signed up about 22 new members on Saturday. That was the busiest day. There was 76,000 people there on Saturday, and we were just mobbed.
But do you think that was because you had the 4 Countachs?
Yeah.
Really?
No, because everyone was coming in hearing that we drip fed that there was going to be a Countach, and of course they turned up on the stand, and there was 4 of them, and we displayed them with the doors open. We displayed them in various angles so you could see the whole thing, and we were just getting people. Genuinely, I think one grown man cried because he'd never seen one in the flesh, and his son had, and his son always had that one-upmanship of seeing a Countach. So I let the dad sit in one, and he cried. He was just like,
"Oh my God!
I can't believe you've made my day, and I'm seeing 4 for the first time, and you've let me sit in one." And I'm just thinking, well,
wow.
That's what these cars mean to that clientele.
Do you think, sorry, Si, if I could just ask, do you think an Aventador would have had the same reaction?
Not in the slightest. Nowhere near. Not in the slightest.
I had an event once, and I had about 12 Aventadors parked up. And I used to be a big fan until I saw 12 of them parked up, and I was like, okay, it's 12 Countachs parked up. That'd be good.
You stop the world.
Next year, like I said, you will get more members if you have a Batman there.
That's what you want to do next year.
And a black Aventador and Batman.
Really? Si, whilst I've got you, can you just check if your sound is still the same, or is there some interference behind you? Because you're cutting in and out a little bit.
No, I'm fine. Everything's fine on my side.
There's no external noise or anything there?
No, nothing at all.
Okay, well, keep this distance from the mic. At this point, it's quite clear. So again, the question regarding, I was talking to somebody else about this, the numbness factor of an NEC show. Because when you go to the NEC, I mean, like, if you saw one Di Tommaso, if I saw a Di Tommaso Pantera on this high road here in Kingsbury, I would just lose it. I'd be like, oh my God. But, you go there, and I mean, to be fair, the Panteras were beautiful. But, again, honestly, like 4 Countachs, I didn't really realize that there were 4 until I was sitting upstairs talking to you, and I sort of held the camera
Yeah.
up, and I was going to take a selfie, and I was like, oh my God, there's four of
Yeah.
them, you know.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the NEC kind of numbs you a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, because there's so many weird and wonderful things from our childhood, our adolescence on display there, that you know, and that's we did that on purpose. We did say to certain people that there was going to be 4 cars there, but we put our vice chairman's silver anniversary in a position where that's the only one you could see when you walk around the corner, and it's only when you suddenly get closer to the trailer that you realize there's another 4 sets of doors, you know, up, and there's another one, and that was the wow factor. I think at about 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, our stand was 5-6 deep of just people trying to get a view.
Oh, it was
and
so
I remember
busy
those.
there. It was so
Yeah,
busy
I remember
there.
those sort of scenes when I was trying to get through the crowd at Motor Fair at Earl's Court as a child, trying to get through the 10 deep crowd to see my first Countach, and there we were recreating.
Now you're
I'm
taking
really
me back.
proud.
I'm just going to tell you the secret to how to solve that. But before that, I want to give a shout out to Darana377. Because he says, I had my Charade GTTI there. It was great. And I did see your GTTI, and I did lose it because that is a little legend of a pocket rocket that we hardly see anymore. And I think, Darren, you'll know that I did feature that in my video because I was just absolutely blown away to see that. So it was brilliant. So thank you for bringing that.
Great little
and
cars.
coming back to the days of the old motor shows, which you've just reminded me about, Alan. So back in the day, before I was a journalist, I didn't have press passes, and I used to just pay to go to the motor show. So if you remember, there used to be the VIP day, so you paid a little bit more to go on the VIP day. So I used to live in Saudi at the time, and I was back in the UK, and I had a good buddy from here, Verinder Patel, if he's watching this. He was well built. He used to work out and stuff like that, you know. And he had a bomber jacket. So I dressed up in a suit, and I said to him, right, we're going to go in this show. I'm going to pretend to be a Saudi sheikh, and you're going to pretend to be my minder. And I kid you not, we got into Lamborghini stand, the Ferrari stand, the Lotus stand. I got pictures of me sitting in the Lotus, you know. And I said, one thing you have to tell them though, he doesn't want to be spoken to. Because I said, if somebody starts speaking to me in Arabic, my Arabic is very little, it's very limited. I'll be in trouble. Just tell him. He said he's very private. He doesn't want to be spoken to, but he wants to come and have a look at the car. I said, okay. It bloody worked.
That's very good.
Let's try it next weekend down Mayfair.
Yeah,
let's give it a go.
Very good.
Yeah, I probably have a little bit more Arabic now.
You're sheikh as well, aren't you? So.
Go ahead, Yani. Yalla. Faddal.
Yeah, well, I used to. I tried that trick once. I think it was the launch of the Diablo at Motor Fair in Earl's Court, and I had the business card of 2 lovely guys, Peter Leonard Morgan, and I've forgotten his name now, but I had their business cards, and I walked up to the security guard because I couldn't see them on the stand, so I thought I was safe, and I showed them the business cards. Del Hopkins, that was the other guy, and I just said, look. These guys said if I showed these cards, you'd let me on the stand, and it worked. And then I didn't realize there was a false wall to the stand. And as I walked on, all these guys walked out, and I'm going, oh no, I'm rumbled, because they're just going to see this idiot 18-year-old walking onto the stand. And bless them, they actually went, oh, hi Alan, we were wondering when you get it. Do you want to sit in the car? And I'm just like, oh my God, I just pulled that off, thank God. And now they're dear friends of mine. And
so you've clearly had a lifelong obsession with Lamborghini, and particularly Lamborghini, right? Or is it?
Yeah.
Is it and
anything and everything, supercar wise, definitely.
And when did you first get to own one?
I don't own one.
Oh, you still? Oh, really? Wow.
I don't own one. I don't.
He doesn't need to. He gets access to all the cars. It's like
honestly, it's like me when people say, "What car do you have?" I say, "I'm a motoring journalist. I just drive other people's cars." So.
Exactly. He drives other people's cars and let them worry about the maintenance and the repairs.
I've been extremely lucky in that I was in the right place at the right time to leave the NHS and become the customer service manager for Lamborghini in the UK, running the largest workshop and the body shop. At the time when there was only HRO and in School Road doing Lamborghini from Lamborghini London, we took over a lot of the servicing in the body shop. And from there, we were the first people to import Koenigsegg's, the first people to import Paganis. And it just starts to snowball. So then obviously you start, because you get factory trained. So I was trained at the factory under Valentino Balboni, and then you get trusted.
Legend.
and then you start getting insured by the factory. So when you go to things like Millbrook or Silverstone for new model launches, I'm usually the idiot that will take you around the track and scare the hell out of you. And then that just starts developing into getting known for your driving, because you're treating the cars, although you're driving them way beyond what normal people would, you're mechanically sympathetic to the car. And I've been doing that for 23 years now, and I've driven for Lamborghini, Pagani, Koenigsegg, Bugatti, Ascari, Rolls-Royce, Bentley. These are dealerships I've run, businesses I've run, things I've done for the manufacturer.
You should become a journalist.
I've run the largest
No,
Ferrari business in the world.
You can't. That'd be conflict of interest. How did you get the driver training? Were you racing when you were younger? Were you karting?
No. I can't stand racing. I'm frightened of doing track work. So I was very once you learn how to manipulate the weight of an ambulance, if you apply that to something that's designed to go quickly, you very quickly know what you're doing. It stands out like a sore thumb. Okay. To say, this isn't just some idiot getting in a car. It's somebody who can actually understand that you've got to set the car up smooth is fast, that you're manipulating the weight. And you surround yourself with people that do that. I mean, one of my great mentors was a guy called Lee Cunningham, who is and was the SVR One Make Race Series champion, developed the GTR for Lamborghini and then the Murcielago RGT, and set up Super Trofeo. Now he and I have worked together for near on 23 years. And I'm a good driver. He's on a different level. But when you sit beside someone like that daily and you swap over and you start to develop your own skills, because you want to improve. And over 23 years of jumping into anything and everything, from, I think the last thing I drove professionally for when I was running Ferrari was the Rimac Nevera, to test it from outside of Hatfield right down to SP3 Daytonas, LaFerraris, anything like that. Because in 23 years, I've never given a car back in any less state than I got it in. Because I've got a family. I want to go home every evening. I'm not going to be a dick on the road. But
one thing you said there, which interests me, is understanding the nuances, the balance, the weights of a car. And I think this is quite crucial. And I had a real illustration of this back when Toyota launched the GT86. I was back in the UAE at the time. And they did a big launch thing at Yas Marina Circuit. So we went down there, we could drive the cars, and then we also got demo laps with pro drivers. And the idea was that the pro drivers were going to drift them, because the whole thing about the 86 was, it's a drift car and this and that. And the Yas Marina pro drivers, as good as they are, I have to say personally, I felt that they were struggling with the car. Because remember, the car only had 200 horsepower. As a stock car, it's only got 200 horsepower. So if you are of the school of thought that you need power to drift, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Then I said, I want to go out with Ahmed Al-Amri, because I know Ahmed Al-Amri. He was the UAE drift champion. And he had actually learned drifting in Japan, because he'd gone over, his parents had sent him to Japan to study, and instead he started crashing cars into walls and stuff like that, because he got into the whole drift culture there. Now, I got into the car with him, and he made it look effortless. And what I realized, what he was doing was he was using the weight balance of the car to drift it. He wasn't using the power. He was literally balancing the car, upsetting it at just the right point, and then getting it to drift and then holding it that way. He was not relying on the power. And I thought that's the difference between understanding just raw power and understanding the nuances of actually delicate balance of a car.
Exactly. And when you sat beside Valentino Balboni and he's showing you that, or someone as qualified as Lee Cunningham and he's showing you that, and you then start seeing even in a manual, left foot braking, the nuances of just keeping the power on but manipulating the weight to where you get to, then you can actually start learning, training, teaching, and finding out exactly how to do that. And now, fortunately, I've got a reputation amongst my friends that my best friend has actually said to me that I'm so comfortable with it, he actually thinks I was born sideways. So, so but it's having that confidence to actually, and you learn a lot of that driving a 3.5 ton ambulance through the traffic, because you have to manipulate the weight, because it doesn't pick up very quickly. You've got to keep the momentum going. So you have to understand weight transfer, and also to keep a vehicle smooth. Keep a vehicle smooth, it's going to go fast. And when I did that record-breaking run with 5 people, including my now wife, stood in the back, they weren't holding on. There wasn't no health and safety. They weren't strapped in, sitting down. They were walking around to try and help that patient. Well, you're doing 120, 130 up the A3. You've got to keep that vehicle flat and solid to do that. So that's where you learn about left foot braking, manipulating the weight, keeping the vehicle flat.
And also the smoothness, because that's an incredible credit to your abilities that you're able to do that with people actually working to save a life in the back of a vehicle. But that also is testimony to your ability to be smooth, which ultimately is a quicker driver. The driver that can be smooth, the driver where the passengers don't feel like they're going fast, is actually the quicker driver. Whereas if the passengers are unnerved and they feel like they're going quicker, is actually not such a great driver. I have to be honest though, it's kind of weird, because I remember one time I had the absolute privilege and honor of having to partner LJK Setright, the great journalist LJK Setright, on a Mercedes drive event. And the first time I'd ever met him, first time I'd ever seen him, I was overawed. I was still young, and I was like, oh my God. And would you like to partner with LJK Setright? I said, yeah, So I got in the car and he said, oh, you drive first, And I was like, okay, that's kind of him. So we took off down the road, and actually I was driving like I was back in driving school, because it's LJK Setright sitting next to me, And then so we pull over at the halfway point, and would you like to take over? Yeah, oh, yes, chap, I would like to take over. And he gets in the car. I knew there would be trouble because he pulled on these string-back driving gloves. It's the first thing he did, and tied them up. And then he teared down that road, And I've been with other journalists who are very, very good, very fast. Good friend of mine, Kevin Haggerty, who's very, very quick, but very smooth. And you always feel comfortable with him. But I have to be honest, I thought I was going to die that day. I thought, this is it. And I survived, and I got back to the office, and I said, I went out with LJK Setright, and I thought I was going to die. And they said, oh, have you never heard of his reputation? I'm like, no. And they said, well, he believes that when it's his time, it'll be his time. I said, yeah, but what about my time?
You're absolutely right. He had a different opinion. In actually upsetting the balance of a car to understand and manipulate the car through not having it balanced, not having it smooth. And I remember he wrote a series of articles justifying that approach, and I learned a lot from that. But I still maintain I don't have the skill to physically sort of manipulate a car just beyond control. I'd rather do it gradually. I'd rather do it smoothly so I can feel what it's doing, rather than just chuck it into a corner and hope for the best and then cope with it. That's not my style of driving, and it's not what I've been paid to do in the time. It's more consistency and time again, and hitting the marks and doing the same thing over and over again. And you've got to be smooth and consistent for that.
There's a question for both of you, as both of you run clubs with supercar owners. There's a general perception that supercar owners are not necessarily very good drivers. Is that fair?
My door just rang. I've got to go. Alan answers the...
So money doesn't buy skill. I think that's my answer. However, I'm the first non-owning car chairman to run the Lamborghini Club. I've been doing it 7 years now as the chairman, and a lot of our members have either sat with me in the car, know me, or I've sold them a car, or they talk to me and they want to find out more. And I would say then we've got the rallies that we do, the international trips, where I'll actually sit with them and teach them how to get the best out of their cars. So I would say a lot of the people in the Lamborghini Club are very, very keen to hone their skills and find out. And that's the refreshing side of it. The people that do laps at Harrods in Knightsbridge aren't necessarily club members. I'd love them to be, because they would probably get more, people like Si, more out of their car than they know is possible. But a lot of our members are real enthusiasts who are very, very keen to understand their cars. And we do that, we see that when we do international tours, because we don't publicize it, and we do it off the beaten track. We do go roads that we know, roads I've tested on, and we'll actually spend a couple of days on the roads, and then I'll teach people how to do that and get them confident in the road. One of the rallies I've got a dear friend who's got an SE30 Diablo. He'd only done 400 miles on it, and I was asking him to do 6,000 kilometers across Italy on some of the most stunning roads possible. And he was just like, well, what does that look like? So I took him out in the car and showed him what the car could do. And by the end of it, he was drifting that car around mountain passes with confidence, going, I never thought the car would do it. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what you were doing to the car. So having that opportunity to show people, and that's what I like about the club, people actually want to engage and learn and find out. So there is an element that money doesn't buy skill, but there's also an element that if you join a club, you've got that little bit of extra passion and want to develop your skills. So I believe, from what I've seen and what I know, having been in the club for 35 years, that club members are a little bit different, and it's certainly Lamborghini Club. And from what I've seen from the Drivers Union as well, which we're very, very proud that we partnership on a social level, it's slightly different if you're a member of an enthusiast club like that.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about the road touring and stuff, because do you find that sometimes the bravado or the ego is greater than the skill? For example, we used to do meets and stuff in Dubai, and one time, and you know, there were our favorite roads that we used to go and drive on up towards the east side of the east coast of the UAE. So we'll go up into the mountain roads, and sometimes we took a couple of guys with us. And I did it with my friend. I was the sweeper and he was the lead car. And I got very alarmed because I could see one of the drivers clearly overdriving, like really overdriving, to the point that I radioed ahead to Imtishan and I said, look, just slow it down, because otherwise he's going to come unstuck, you know. And I never did it again after that, because I was just like, I'm not taking on the responsibility of, you know, somebody overdoing it and then losing it and then, you know, ending up in the side of a cliff face or something, you know. So it's a brave thing to do, to take people out like that when you're not quite sure if they're going to be able to understand their own limitations.
Yeah, but then also, you know, every day I start a driver briefing with the route and what the expectations are. But then I also follow it up by saying, don't try and impress us. I'm running the rally, and usually the people that I'm with, I know how they can drive, so I'll drive at a speed they're comfortable with. And if then they say, well, actually, how fast can we take this road? What can we do? Then I'll demonstrate it to them, and very quickly they'll realize it doesn't matter what you're in, you're not going to keep up with me. You're just not going to keep up with me. And I recall well, it's the same rally that I did with the SE30. That was 10 Lamborghinis that I took I shipped them to Italy and drove it back with Mel Nichols for the recreation of Convoy for Car Magazine in 1997. And I said to everybody there, because I had a Hurricane Spider loaned by the factory, and I said, don't try and keep up with me. And they said, oh, and it was bravado, because it was, you know, it was an officially sanctioned event, and then I said, no, you misunderstand. This is how much I'll put you in your place. I'm not going to be driving the Hurricane. I'm going to give it to Mel. I'm going to drive the Ford Transit luggage van. Don't try and keep up with me. And the only people that actually managed to get to a hotel before I did was dear friends Glenn and Lucy that run our Lamborghini trailer in the Murcielago SV. And I'm not even going to tell you the speeds they had to try and achieve to actually get to the hotel before I got this Ford Transit, which was fully loaded up. It was a crew cab, so usually had 4 passengers in it and all the luggage. And I was getting to places up mountain passes faster than they. I'm saying it doesn't matter what you're trying to do with the car. Unless you understand what you're doing with it, you're not going to get past me and you're not going to beat me.
Basically, if you want Alan to win any races, give the man a van.
Hey, I was known as... we gave everyone nicknames. We gave everyone nicknames on that rally, and I was known as Super Van Man, and I wear that badge with pride. I wear that. I promise you, it was even Mel was like, I could sit and watch you drive that van up the San Bernardino Pass all day, mate. I could just sit with you. I could sit behind you. He said, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how you were doing it.
Shazam, we should recreate the Italian Job intro with Alan driving a van.
Yeah, basically.
The same music.
Yeah.
I'll be up for that.
Smoking a cig, you know.
And going through the tunnel.
With the Renault glasses on. Yeah, 100%. I'm up for that.
But you don't. I mean, in the drivers' union, you don't do many drive convoys, do you? You normally just do static events.
I know we do drives. Less so recently, but we used to do. I mean, Alan's very diplomatic. Me, I would turn around and say some people should just not have a supercar. You know, you just do not even buy one. You know, I've seen, I mean, this is non-members. I've seen videos of some guys doing 150 miles per hour. And I'm like, why would you want to do that on a public road? You know, and things like convoys, for example, we did convoys. So as everyone knows, when you're leading a convoy, you got various kind of cars there. So you might have an Aventador, and you might have a Maserati Bora, you know, or an old Ferrari. You're not going to be able to do 100 miles per hour all the time. So you've got to keep to the limit. And when you're driving along, you also got to be careful of the cameras. If I'm driving and everyone's following me and we go for a camera, everybody gets a ticket.
Gets a click.
There's a lot of responsibility. So what happens? I'm driving. I tell them, don't overtake me. I'm driving 75. It's about right. You know, and I say to people, look, best thing in the world is to be driving in a convoy on a motorway surrounded by supercars. And you just think of what the people on the other side are looking at. But imagine you're looking there, you've got an Aventador, looking there, you've got a Ferrari, look behind you, you've got a McLaren. It's great. But you get some members, won't mention names, they just shoot up at you know, XXX miles per hour. Fine, you're going to get there fast. I remember once we did an event on the M4, and we left the services, and I was around the middle part, and they all shot off, literally straight. As soon as they came off onto the M4, bang, 100 and whatever. Hopefully the police won't see this. Anyway, so I was like, and not that I was speeding, but I tried to keep up, but I couldn't. I just gave up. I mean, there was a whole lot of guys behind me who were slow driving. So we just drove, we cruised around. What did they do? They didn't follow me. They missed the turning, didn't they? So we got there at the same time. And that's the thing. And I always say to them, if you're going to... So people always say to me, oh, sorry, you drive really slow. Yes, I have to drive slow because I'm leading the pack. But I never see them on track days. You know, I've driven at Brands Hatch in the pouring rain in the 348, which is scary as hell. You know? You know, but I never see. And
I always find the best remedy to bring somebody's ego under control is to put them with a pro driver on the track, because it's the most humbling experience that you can have.
Well,
you know, because you think you're really quick until you sit next to a pro driver, and then you're like, oh my God, you know, and you know, it's a whole, it completely rearranges your way of thinking.
I tell people to do something different. So last year we did some airfield days at Northfield, which is run by Andy Walsh. He's an ex-race car driver, and if you want to learn car control, you know, go see him. You spend the day at Northfield Airfield. We did 3 days there over the course of the year. Drivers Union paid for it. We paid for it. Well, I paid for it. You know, so it's free for the members. But everyone got to learn, because you drive. The first thing you do is in the morning you're driving down this long lane, and you do a sharp left turn with an imaginary brick wall along where the drain is. And you know what? Most people spin. And that's how you learn the limits of your car. You keep spinning until you stop spinning. And I used to do it on my 348, and I realized if I did 80, I'd spin. 65 too slow. 75 was a sweet spot, and I would go around. A friend of mine, he bought a Ferrari, and he, you know, for the first time, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a bit nervous." I said, "Go there, to have a day with him." He spent 400 quid or whatever it was. His confidence rose. And that's what we're going to do, because anybody can drive. We see Ford Fiestas driving 120 miles per hour. Anybody can drive fast in a straight line. You know, car control, anticipation, knowing the limits of your car, and rear engine cars are tricky. 360, there is a reason why it's called a 360, because they tend to spin. You know, I've seen guys in a 360 who've spun off a track Brands had when it was just the warm-up lap.
Yeah,
they're doing the track day, because it's a very different. It has. Someone said to me, it's got a design flaw, which is fixed later on in the challenge and the other cars, but it's very light at the back.
The design flaw was the driver.
Driver. No, this driver's always a design flaw, but it's always tricky.
I think it's very important. I think it's important, as you say, you've got to learn. You've got to learn your own limitations.
Yeah.
And unless you start to push things and have the safety, this is why we're talking about advanced driver training is so important. It gives you the confidence to push, but also the knowledge to know that, well, that's my limit and I can't control this, so I have to take a step back. You've just said the best humbling experience is to go out with a professional driver. So, you know, and I refer to Valentino or Lee Cunningham, you know, I can drive, but I can't drive at their level. And I know that because I'm like, you're going that last little bit. It's the mentality of having a professional driver like Lee sat beside you. And he, you know, I've said to him, what's that last bit to get to where you're at? And he says, well, I don't have a family. I don't have children, so I don't care. If I crash, if I hurt myself, it's me. But I know that that's how I'm going to learn, and that's how I'm going to. And he's just won the European. He comes second in the European F2 Championship at 52 years old. So he's still pushing. He's still doing it, showing the youngsters that are coming up through the ranks how to do it at 52 years old. Because that's the difference between knowing the limits of the car and understanding where you can and can't do it, and then just thinking you're a good driver.
But to be fair,
you'll be pleased to learn that you're being compared to Sabine Schmidt, the late great Sabine Schmidt, by one of the people in the comments.
Bless Sabine. Yeah, but I appreciate that. That's very kind. That's very kind.
I mean, to be fair, most people buy supercars to pose anyway. Really,
that's true.
To make a noise and to drive around.
Come on,
talking of which, we've got Darren who's asking. The Diablo was his poster car when he was a kid. He would love to buy one. He's wondering what the prices are like. Should he consider buying one?
Well, they're going up now. Diablos are going up. They're the last of the sort of modern V12s. Murcielago and Diablo, the market's still very soft for them, but they're headed up now. So I would suggest, and it's why, you know, so many people are getting their Diablos sorted now. A good Diablo can be had for around £200,000 to £300,000 now.
Wow.
A decent one now, you're talking $500,000. Diablo GT, one of those sold plus $1 million at the latest round of auctions, just in autumn. So, you know, you can clearly see where the market's going. That was a very special Diablo GT, but you can see where the market's going. Murcielago the same. Murcielago SV is going to be the first, or rather the second £1 million Lamborghini, I reckon, quite easily. Saw one sold last year at auction that had 500 miles on it for plus $1 million. So it's quite reasonable to think that these cars are now getting the recognition they deserve. They really are.
I'll ask you another question has just come up, but just before I ask you that question, when you talk about the Diablo and the Murcielago, do you consider either or both of those to be the last proper Lamborghinis, if you like? Because they were still under Lamborghini ownership.
When I started at Lamborghini, it was Diablo 6 Liter. So I had to learn the cars backwards, so to speak, for the Diablo range. And I think from 94, 95 model year Diablo, they really hit a really good sweet spot of what makes a good Lamborghini. 6 Liter, one of the best cars ever, Lamborghini's ever made. Diablo GT, that sort of era of Audi influence. Murcielago changed the game completely. And I was very, very lucky to work with Lamborghini through pretty much the entire Gallardo model range development and all of the Murcielago range development. And I would say, if you want the best idea of what a Lamborghini should feel like and what a supercar, not just a Lamborghini, but the best supercar experience money can buy. This is not the fastest, not the best handling, the one that says that this is a supercar and this is what it should feel like. Murcielago SV is just the best experience to drive because it spits flame, it's noisy, it's uncouth, you'll go backwards out and off the road if you don't know what you're doing. But my God, that's everything that Lamborghini knew thrown into one car.
I will agree with you on that because I was very fortunate to drive one around the Autodrome back in the day, just at the end of the life, and honestly, the memory of that drive burned itself into. And the Autodrome is a great track, so I know that quite well. I don't like the Asmarina so much; it's terrifying. But Autodrome is quite good. But driving in the Murcielago SV around there, oh my God, what legendary thing! A question for both of you, I think. This is from Hooked on Classics. Where track-wise in the UK would be a good place to learn driving skills to really push yourself?
Northwood Airfield, because you can't hit anything. Basically, that's the thing. You know, you go on a track, you can take it to the limit, but you could come off and you could hit the wall.
Yeah,
hit the barrier. Brands Hatch, I love Brands Hatch. Going down Paddock Hill, going to that the hairpin, fantastic. Scary, fantastic. But you can hit things, and you've got other people on the track at the same time. You can hit. If you want to learn, go to Airfield, Northwood, Andy Walsh. He's the man. There's nothing you can't hit. You would spit. A few guys went onto the grass, did a bit of, playing the grass a little bit, but that's the best thing. Just the limit, because when you go to the limit, you want to be, because you're going to spin, you want to lose control. That's when you learn your limit. So I would say an airfield rather than a track day.
Yeah, I would agree. Agree.
I don't know if this is a compliment, but it's for you, Sai. It says, Sai, looks like the kind of guy to have a good car-related argument with. I can just imagine him saying, "Look, mate."
Look, I don't argue, and I resent that accusation. Tell that guy just to like, see you later, mate.
I thought you were gonna say I resemble that comment.
I do resemble that comment.
That's very good.
The thing is that half the time I say things I don't actually mean, so it's all quite.
I can confirm that. Si's a good guy to have an argument with about anything and everything. Where to park, who should go where, what events you can come to. He's good about arguments. Exactly, he's good about anything about that. Always.
Actually, so before we end, you got to put your mask on now, because I know you brought your mask. Come on, let's see it. Let's put it on.
Well, when I get that ready, Alan. So we're talking about Lamborghini V12s.
Yeah.
Running costs. What's it like to own one?
A V12, I reckon you should set aside about £10,000 a year.
£10,000.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Much?
You know, because one of the things,
tyres, brakes, servicing, major service every other year, £3,500–4,000. Your clutch, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to burn it out quickly. Less so in the modern stuff with the paddle shift, but if it's Diablo, Diablo, Murcielago, or Countach, you're going to need a clutch because they'll burn through very quickly unless you're mechanically sympathetic and you know what you're doing. Generally speaking, I would say about £10,000 a year for a V12 and you're safe.
What about the V8s, the Viados?
The V8s and the V10s, probably around again, I'd say £6,000 to £7,000 a year you should set aside. Again, tyres, brakes.
So are you saying that's the same for an Audi R8 then?
No, because you pay the Lamborghini tax on parts.
Oh, that's the thing then, isn't it? You have to go to the right person. That's always the case.
So we've got 5 minutes. So you were running HRO in service centre.
Yes,
a few years back at Hatfield, which you took me around. A very impressive place. So Ferrari-wise, the most reliable Ferrari and the most least reliable Ferrari.
Do you know what? Anything since 458. So when you run a big car dealership, you have 3 levels of income coming in. You have the retail customers, you have the internal prep, and you have your warranty. And normally in the dealership sizes that I run and the business I run, I'm used to saying, £25,000–30,000 a month in warranty claims to the manufacturer. Ferrari, ridiculously reliable. Less than £7,000 a month claimed through Ferrari warranty for faults on Ferraris. They are so reliable.
From 458
onwards, they are so reliable. You have no idea. It was so disappointing not to be able to make more money out of Ferrari warranty, and that wasn't because Ferrari were unwilling or uncooperative. They were superb. Ferrari as a company, when you're running a dealership, absolutely brilliant, just brilliant. One of the best privileges of my life to run Ferrari business that size. But to make money out of them in terms of internal faults, the cars don't have the faults. It's ridiculous. But having said that, you're starting to get them with the hybrid vehicles and things like that. Yeah. And then also, if you're on the realms of LaFerrari, then you've got to be very careful as an owner to tick all the boxes in terms of warranty. Otherwise, you're in for some very expensive upsell bills for the hybrid battery.
How much is the battery in the LaFerrari?
173,000 euros.
Wow!
My biggest upsell ever that I phoned a customer was £235,000, and that was for his LaFerrari hybrid battery, the LaFerrari normal battery. That was 10 grand on its own. His normal service, his predictive service, and his new warranty. £235,000, and he paid it on a credit card.
Good to be rich.
Did he have the word Ibn Sheikh in it or in his name or something like that?
I'm not going to say who his name was, but
at the NEC, I was talking to the guy that had the Essex Lotus S3, and I asked him the same question, like the annual running cost, because he has 2 of them actually. And he told me £1,500, and I was like, really? He said, yeah, I've owned the car for 35 years. And he said it works out to about £1,500 a year. It hasn't really cost me that much. So that's a huge margin between what you're talking about and this level of supercar.
You can maintain.
No, keep it on. Keep it on. We haven't finished. You have to finish with that.
It keeps going on and off.
You can maintain.
We don't need to see your face anymore. The mask is more interesting.
I had this problem.
Go on, Alan.
Oh,
Sorry.
God. You can maintain a Lamborghini as cheap as you want, but you'll pay for it in the end. You'll pay for it in the end. And those my clients, my friends, they know when I tell them that's what it's going to cost you. That's when it's going to cost you. I may be able to get a little discount, but that's what it's going to cost you. So I can't take you seriously.
Anybody that's not watching this and listening to this has got to realize we are completely distracted by Sai putting on his Iron Man mask. So we'll leave the final word up to our wannabe Iron Man, Batman, and Dark Lord as we sign off from another episode of Brown Car Guy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll hand it over to Sai. You can sign off, please, Si, as Iron Man.
It's stuck down now. You know it's stuck down now.
I'm trying to find my lightsaber. There, yeah. It's really cool, a crossover.
Oh,
Iron
God,
Man, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Can't believe this is how you guys spend a Saturday afternoon.
Seriously.
Can't.
Open lid.
Right. So in character, can you please sign off and say bye to all the lovely folk that have been watching us and listening and tolerating us to this afternoon?
Goodbye, everyone. Thrusters on.
Oh well, that was inspiring. That was quite an anticlimax, quite frankly.
Hot in it. No smoke's Betsy.
Dear. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us today. This was
Thank
a
you.
live edition, and we will also be putting up a edited version by tomorrow, so catch that one as well. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of Brown Car Guy Therapy Session. My thanks so much to Sai and to Alan for joining us today. It's been a really fun session, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop.